Hello everyone, it's Greg from Edinburgh Renaissance Fencing Academy here. I have kind of a special video for you today. At the time of recording this, my club is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Yes, that's right, I founded ERFA back in September 2014, and the club is still going strong today. Though, of course, there have been a few ups and downs along the way. Before I founded ERFA, I actually trained for quite a few years in another historical fencing club, also based in Edinburgh, but I eventually decided to split off from that group and found my own school. Now, the primary motivation for doing this was because I wanted to be more focused and more systematic in my approach to training. So ERFA was really set up with the idea of honing in specifically on the Renaissance Italian style of swordsmanship and developing a good, solid methodology for teaching and training in this specific style of swordsmanship. So I thought what I'd do today is share some of my advice for best practice when training in historical fencing. So this is based on my own experience of founding and running ERFA. So I'm going to give you my 3 top tips for best practice in training drills, and then my 3 top tips, best practice for free fencing. Let's go. Right, so my first tip for drilling is follow the instructions. Now that sounds obvious, but let me explain what I mean. If an instructor tells you to perform a short sequence of moves and counter moves, if this sequence is constructed properly, then it will be designed to teach you a specific skill, perhaps a certain type of parry. Maybe you're working on the timings of a thrust or how to correctly perform a particular type of cut. Could be anything. But the drill will be constructed to focus on that thing. If you start experimenting and changing the drill, then you will remove that focus. You will no longer be learning the thing that you're supposed to be developing. There is a time for experimentation, but drills, or fixed play drills anyway, are not it. Trust the instructor, follow their instructions, and focus on the thing that you're meant to be focusing on. Second tip for drills is go slow, or at least go slow to start with. There is no point in rushing in to a full speed attempt to complete a drill. You will almost certainly do it wrong, and you will almost certainly not be able to focus on the minutiae and the technical components of how the drill is to be performed. If you start off slow, you can hone in on the essential fundamentals of not only what to do in the drill, but how to do it. So that means the body mechanics of moving yourself and controlling your weapon, which is actually the most important thing to be learning from a drill. You can build in speed gradually as your confidence and accuracy grows, but you should only do this gradually, step by step. Go slow for as long as you need to be able to do it right. If you can't do the drill right when you're going slow, then there's no chance you'll be able to do it right going fast. So take your time and learn things properly. Okay, my third top tip for best practice in drills is help your partner. This might come as a surprise to some people out there, but drills are intended to be cooperative, or at least semi-cooperative in nature. They need to be. They're a fixed sequence of movements. So you need to agree with your partner that they're doing move A, you're doing move B, and then they respond with move C, and so on and so forth. And each of these techniques needs to be performed as well as possible. In that way, both people can benefit from participating in the drill. So if you help your partner by encouraging them, maybe by giving them little tips as to how they could do things better, then this will foster this kind of cooperative and supportive mentality. And hopefully that will mean that your partner will also encourage you and will also help you to get better. And then everyone will learn together, and learning is the point of training. Okay, so my first tip for best practice in free fencing is control your speed. Now, a certain amount of speed is obviously necessary for the dynamic environment of free fencing, but you should not be going at 100% maximum possible speed. If you go that fast, you will not be able to control yourself, your weapon, or the tactical situation in the fight, and things will fall apart very quickly. The speed you should fence at is a speed at which you can control yourself and your weapon, and where you can try to apply skillful techniques and tactics to the fight in a thoughtful way. This is how your skills will develop, and this is how you will achieve satisfying and complex and technical fencing bouts. So go a little bit slower and you might be surprised at how much better your fencing becomes. The second free fencing tip I have for you is be less competitive. When the adrenaline gets going and we put ourselves into that mindset of one-on-one combat, it's easy to get really competitive about it and to focus just on beating the other person. And too often beating the other person means scoring more hits, or at least more touches, shall we say, than your partner gives to you. Now, that is a competitive sports fencing mentality. That's fine for that discipline, but if you are trying to perform historical fencing and you're trying to get better at historical fencing, then this is the wrong mentality to have. Put the point scoring to one side and focus on just fighting as well as you can. Free fencing is a test, but it's a test of your own skills. It's not a test of your ability to beat up some training partner in the cell. So try to be a little less competitive and a little more thoughtful in your approach to free fencing. And my third and final tip for best practice in free fencing is try to do historical techniques. Although in free fencing, we think of it as being free in the sense that you have an open choice of techniques, that does not mean that you can do whatever you want. And it's certainly not a good idea just to do whatever you want. The purpose of training in historical fencing is to try to recreate a historical way of fighting with swords and similar weapons. That means you have to try to do the techniques that you've trained in class. It's the only way that you'll find out how to implement them correctly, and it's the only way that you'll make your skills develop. Now, that might mean you have to put up with an imperfect way of performing these techniques to start with. It might mean that you end up getting hit quite a few times before you really hone things to an effective level, but that's okay. That's part of training. That's the point of training in any martial art, really. So try to do historical techniques. Don't just improvise randomly and hope for the best. Okay, that's the last tip I have for you today. I should emphasize these are all my personal opinion based on my personal experience of running ERFA for the last 10 years. But I urge you to give them serious consideration. They will help you develop your skills in a technical and authentically historical way. All right, that's it for today, folks. See you again soon. Bye.